Welcome to MarginBusiness Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's episode, we got Rael Klein. Rael is the co-founder and CEO of Nozzle. Nozzle was developed with a mission to both simplify and maximize profits and advertising investment returns for brands on Amazon. Welcome, Rael. Thank you for making it today, Rael. It's a pleasure to having you here today to the MarginBusiness Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Omar. Yeah, all good, all good. Can't complain. A little bit cold here in London in the UK, but otherwise all good. Thank you.
That's great to hear. So you're in London. That's pretty cold. We're in southern Spain, so I think we're
very jealous.
It's still, you see me sitting in t-shirt, but trust me, it's like 18 degrees to 19 degrees. So it's chilly at night. Let's say it this way.
If you're calling 18, 19 degrees chilly, then you know.
I understand. Yeah, I know. The north is pretty cold. Yeah, the reason why we came together today is we want to talk about your professional life before Nozzle. How you got where you at today, and what were your challenges when you were smaller or a child at school? Are there any entrepreneurial structures already in your family? Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my upbringing was in South Africa. If you wondering where my accent is from, yeah. So I spent, the majority of my life in South Africa, born and bred in Johannesburg. I guess in terms of the sort of entrepreneurial mindset, I mean, there's always entrepreneurial thinking within my family. My father started working sort of at a big corporate, but, quite early on, actually, soon after I was born, I'm the younger of two brothers. So, young kids, and he struck out on his own to do his own thing. And so, the sort of entrepreneurial way and the challenges were always, came face to face with them. And when I was older, he would always share some of the stories and challenges. I mean, none of, like you can go through really rough times or really good times and all that sort of thing. But it was more just some of the challenges he'd be facing with the business or with people or with certain deals he was trying to do, or, all that kind of stuff. And, I got a lot of, visibility into that and the thinking on how to solve those sort of problems and all that. So definitely always within me to go and do that. Was I absolutely set that no matter what I would do, I would be entrepreneurial? I mean, not really, right? I mean, possibly at some point in my life, but, I would always go to university. It wasn't a consideration to say, hey, I'm not going to go to university sort of thing. And so I did go to university, and I studied finance and economics. And so I was very firmly in sort of, a quantitative type field like finance and economics. I then came to the UK in 2010 to study a master's in finance and economics. So again, very, very firmly in the finance and finance camp. But it was really funny because if I think of all the sort of modules, electives that I took, or the optional type electives, it was nothing to do with entrepreneurship at the time, which is quite funny. But as soon as I'd finished studying, so this is 2011, as soon as I finished studying, I got out of finance. I decided I didn't even want to work in finance at all. It was a tough time.
It's most of the time like that, you're just like, I got it. I had just somebody else in banking. I interviewed him a few weeks ago, exactly the same. He wanted to work with Morgan Stanley, and it took him I think 4 or 5 years to get that position. And so when he had it, he said, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to say, before I moved to the UK, I did work in finance for 2 years, right? So I did have a good experience in it. But I guess for me, the main thing is anything that's more kind of on the advisory side, at least in the finance world, companies kind of exist in spreadsheets. at least when you're quite, just starting out and quite junior. And so
that's true.
I'd be some expert on, modeling things and all that kind of stuff, but they're existing in spreadsheets, and the models, of course, are never accurate because that's, modeling in general is near impossible. And so, I mean, something that, you wanted to actually build something and feel you're making a much bigger impact, and your decisions are for good or for worse, right? But your decisions are absolutely linked to outcomes in that way, instead of saying,
Definitely.
Instead of hiding behind a model, right? And saying, well, given all these like 20 assumptions, we think it's going to kind of be like this. And it's like, here's the real world, take some ownership over these decisions. And that's really what I was after, right? And so I was in London at the time, and then my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, was running a website, looking into, I guess, how you monetize these websites.
Sorry to interrupt your video. I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate you having you here today, watching this video right now. And I wanted to let you know that MarginBusiness can help you to optimize your listings for the European Union in order for you to sell more. Sorry, one more thing. If you like our content, please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Thank you. Now enjoy your video.
And kind of stumbled across online advertising, and in particular, programmatic advertising. So this is the weird wide world of somebody arrives on a website, and in real time, literally in milliseconds, there's an auction to show you an ad. People place bids, winners chosen, winner shows you the ad. And what was really interesting to me is I looked at this market, which was pretty new at the time, right? This is 2013. And thought, well, finance has actually been doing this for a very long time, right? Algorithms buying and selling things in real time. And immediately thought, hey, these are two worlds that have just never overlapped. And, is there something from the finance world that can be used in the online advertising world? And I don't want to go into, I guess, too much detail, but the kind of wild idea at the time was to try see if we could do things like what's called puts and calls, options and derivatives, weird sort of finance complexity type stuff in there.
Okay.
And I'd come up with like good use cases of why, as an online, if you're, I don't know, Sony and selling, I don't know, PlayStations or games, why you'd want to buy these things, or if you're on the other side, you're a publisher hosting these websites, why this is good for you. Anyway, it's funny because in the beginning, I was pitching this to, let's say, angel investors. And the pitches were just terrible, right? Like I was using finance jargon and, yes. Just trying to pitch it to like, hey, this is for online advertising. But if you look at these like two curves and they intersect over here, and this is what we're trying to do. And it's just the total wrong way to pitch something and to tell a story, which was really funny. But I did manage to secure some funding for that, but of course realized very quickly that this idea wasn't going to work out. And so ultimately what we landed up doing, this is a company called MediaGamma. What we landed up doing is building custom algorithms for the programmatic advertising world. And so we would work with the brands on the one side, who obviously want to get someone to click an ad or download an app or whatever it may be. And we would work on the other side, again, with some of the very big publishers around, they want to maximize their revenue, right? They want to get the highest price in the auction. And so very, very strong computer science and machine learning angle to this. We co-founded out of a computer science department at University College London, out of UCL. And I've got, I guess, a lot of stories on what that means and how to build things like that. But ultimately, I landed up selling that business about 2.5 years ago now to one of our longtime buyers based in New York. And what was interesting is if I look back on at that business, the areas in which it worked the best were with customers who measured what happened after the ad, right? And so if you look at a lot of the gaming customers, they were always interested in, okay, it's not good enough that someone just downloads my app. How much are they spending with me and what happens afterwards, right? And so, what happens on day 1, on day 10, on day 30. And so they would be quantifying the whole journey, right? From like an ad all the way to whatever, 6 months later. And they would be quantifying what's called customer lifetime value, or the profit per customer. And these are the engagements that worked really, really well. And so when we sold MediaGamma, and I was kind of thinking about, what do we do next or whatever, you quickly land on Amazon, because Amazon is obviously just growing, right? Up and to the right, it's growing very quickly. The ad business is growing really quickly. But also from like a data point of view, Amazon is uniquely positioned to tie in the advertising with the transactions. And especially from, and this is kind of with the Nozzle hat on now, especially if you put enough effort, and it is a large effort, but you can find out what happens after that first purchase, right? Do they buy again? Do they buy the same thing again? How long does it take? And so it's kind of the same idea of how much does it take, how many dollars can I afford to acquire a new customer? And you figure that out by actually calculating what is the average profit per customer, right? And it's those kind of two levers that was really behind the thinking of Nozzle and trying to do this for the Amazon seller community. But really the roots of this were kind of learned at the previous business called MediaGamma.
Okay, so let me just break this down very quickly.
Yeah.
From what I understand, so you did obviously the university major in finance, which is already for me like, okay, normally, or let's say the usual way when somebody is building a company with data or working in search engine optimization or anything related to that, what you have been beginning little by little with is would be an engineer. So already your field of financial, going over and doing something, I would say completely different, okay, it's data analytics. Okay.
No, it's completely different. You're 100% right. Yeah.
You have the data analytics, analytics in there, which is the one, the one point where things are meeting, where I would say, okay, but it's very, very far away, both of these things. So that's very interesting already, this first part. So you must have you must have an entourage actually around you as well, who
absolutely
are engineers. And you could merge together and just create it.
Yeah, there are a few interesting points here. I mean, number one, when I co-founded MediaGamma, it was with the head of computer science at UCL, right? So Dr. Jun Wang, who had been looking into this area of applying financial techniques into online advertising.
Okay.
He had a body of research, and we co-founded the business. And I mean, the computer science angle. I mean, yes, I guess there's a quantitative background, but you're absolutely right. Computer science and software engineering and all those sort of things are just completely different. Like I would never ever be the person who's writing an algorithm, basically, none of that sort of stuff, right? Like my role is definitely more on the sort of business side or business development side and all that. So it's really about finding and building teams, right? Complementary teams. I'm good in this area. I need to find, these are the gaps that these are the skills that you need to start a good business, at least right in the beginning. I do this thing, but I need to find somebody else or two or three other people who do these other things, right? And it's really absolutely always about teams. There's no two ways about it. But what is interesting though is it's a little bit unusual because I don't come from the background. I don't come from an online advertising background. I don't come from a machine learning background, and therefore it's a little bit strange like that. But it's again, it's about building teams, and it's about a mindset and an attitude at the end of the day. Like making sure that you can sort of ingest as much information as you can and surrounding yourself with the right sort of people to teach you where you have the gaps, and then having strong convictions about certain things, and and going from there. And you're going to be wrong a lot of the time, you're going to be right some of the time, and you got to quickly assess on when you're wrong and change, or when you're right and double down. And those are the big entrepreneurial challenges, right? So
definitely.
I mean, I think that's it's an unusual background. It's absolutely doable. And also what was interesting for me is like figuring out where's the barrier, right? Like not barrier, sorry, where's the like where do I not need to learn to do something? So like I would always think, do I need to learn how to code? Or I mean, I could do like very, very basic stuff, but like, do I need to do it, take it to the next level sort of stuff? Or do I need to learn design? Or do I need to, I don't know, all these other things, right? And the answer generally is no, right? If you've got somebody, like, it's very, very important to understand.
You need to build a team, actually, yeah.
You need to build a team, but if you're a software company and a product software company, you need to understand how software is developed. You need to understand how to ask the right questions, and that's very, 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 very important. But no, you don't need to learn how to program, right? So you can waste a lot of time just doing all these sort of things and learning to do that. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time. If you're not going to be the person that's actually writing the software in the first place, then find someone else to do it. Learn how to ask the right questions, and that's your role.
I mean, it's definitely the same like our business. I don't have to learn Japanese, for example. I'm
exactly
hiring somebody.
You have colleagues speaking
exactly. So this is it's super important to know actually where your resources are, to get hold of your resources, to make sure that you can build a team, that you have the capacity of leading. Nobody's born as a leader. It's we learn every day. It's a struggle with yourself, discipline. And we have to make sure that we get the right people on board, train them, and then there will be not only employees, there will be our partners, because without our employees we're basically nothing, because they as well running the business as good as you help them to do what they do. So there was Mr. Ford. What he said is there was an interview with him. I'm sure you have read it. I think it was in Think and Grow Rich, in the book. And he said, they asked him, can you do this and that? And are you able to do this? And he said, no, I don't have actually, because he got annoyed at some point that they asked him all these questions. So he said, no, really, I don't have to actually do that. I have a telephone, and then I press a button. And when I press that button, the person comes and tells me actually what I should do, or I ask the person who has more knowledge than me what I should do. Today we have Google, but still.
Exactly. No, and yeah, it's a really important point, that. So, and also, at the end of the day, if you, we chose to go down the venture capital funding route. Now, that's, a decision as a founder, that, a personal decision of what sort of business you want to build. Venture capital is definitely not for, most businesses. It's for very specific types of businesses. Not to say it's better or worse. It's just for certain types of businesses. But ultimately, people invest in teams, not individuals, right? And so, if you're going to go down, especially if you're going to go down the venture capital route, it's very difficult unless you have unless this is your 5th business and you've had 4 great exits and you've got an incredible history. But for first-time founders, it's very, very difficult to raise money from venture capital, like just as an individual. It's going to be about the team. It's probably the team. The team is probably the most important factor in very early stage venture capital investing as well. So definitely.
Yeah, it's it's the same as in our business. Our business, or in our niche, it's very common that people actually hire on demand. So you get a project and you hire on demand. I think as well in development, it can happen if they don't work with major companies, that they hire on demand, which I think is exactly where I really pay attention, because the best is always to have a team already set up, have a steady workflow, so people understand actually, or your partners understand actually what you're working on and how you work, and you understand as well who you can put on which project.
Agreed. And it's also about building. It's also about building the culture at the end of the day, right? Like what sort of values,
the company culture.
And when you're hiring, you're obviously going to be hiring people that share the same values with you, and you're going to be testing for that in the interviews. And so, startups are very, very difficult, especially when, you're on the clock all the time, right? You've got a year to prove or to get to these certain milestones. And, that's just kind of the startup, technology startup, venture capital type environment. And you need to know that you have colleagues who buy into that. It's difficult, but it's definitely not for everyone. But that's exactly why you have the values and the mission, and you hire people who are very like-minded to push you through some of the tough times, because there are going to be tough times. I mean, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, right? And how many.
Exactly. How did you come? I mean, when you sold your first business and you got into the next one, I mean, you elaborated already a little bit about this, but Nozzle, for example, just the name. How did you get on this, and how did you move on afterwards from this and went into what is Nozzle at the moment offering?
So, I mean, I'll start with the last part first, which is Nozzle provides a tool for Amazon sellers to really understand their customers. And so our belief today is that to succeed on Amazon, you need to be able to build a brand. It's not enough to just sell products anymore, right? Amazon is getting much, much more competitive.
Yes.
There are a lot of very well-funded competitors. Cost per clicks and ACOS and all those things, all those metrics are moving in the wrong direction. And building brands is one of the, is what it's going to take to succeed. Now, when you think about building a brand is really about its customers, right? And customer loyalty and all that sort of thing. And so, we're very focused on shining a light on your customers as an Amazon seller. So what are they buying? How often are they buying it? What is the profit per customer? Do they come and buy product A, then go buy product B two months later? And then crucially, what do you do with that information? It's all very nice letting us give you a dashboard, but what does it mean for my advertising strategy and tactics? What does it mean for what sort of products I should be selling, or what sort of products I shouldn't be selling? Just because, I mean, we find this a lot, just because you get a lot of revenue from a particular product doesn't mean your most valuable customers are the ones that are buying it, right? And so when you start thinking about how do I scale this business, how do I double, triple revenue or double, triple profit even, you need to focus on your core users or your core customers and what are they doing? And they're going to come back and buy again, and you don't have to pay to acquire them again, right? It's going to be free the second and third and fourth time that they purchase, because you've got the brand loyalty there. So yeah, we're very focused on those sorts of metrics, those sorts of use cases. I mean, just to go back to the first part of your question, the main thinking was, where can you use, where are there unique data sets that in a very big and growing market that could use some of the skills and lessons that we've learned, right? And e-commerce, I first looked, I guess, at the e-commerce landscape, and of course there's, Shopify and a whole bunch of Walmart and a whole bunch of other sort of marketplaces. But Amazon being more of a sort of closed system, but with open APIs, and investing in those APIs provided a unique opportunity to join the dots between an ad and a sale and what happens after the sale. And again, leverages lessons and sort of skill sets that we had, and the timing was really good. I mean, this is obviously pre-COVID and all that, and clearly, COVID was good for Amazon. But yes. So that's kind of the the approach is like, what are my skills? What are my interests? What market is growing? And with a data hat on, saying, well, where can I get the data to do really, really interesting things that I probably wouldn't be able to do anywhere else? And and Amazon was the answer for us in that case.
Sure. And just the question for me is as well, because there are a few data tools out there.
Yeah. Some
are very useful. Some, I mean, every single one has different data or different sources, what they show or what they're good for or what they specialized in. And depending on the owner, what he puts his whole energy into. What do you think? Or I'm sure Nozzle makes the Nozzle different from the competitors, or let's call them other data companies, because I don't think that there is a direct competition between such valuable companies anyway.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, our starting point is very different. So the way I generally look at, say, the Amazon ecosystem or the third-party sort of tool ecosystem, you get tools that are very focused on, let's say, advertising and advertising management. So let me set up and run a PPC campaign. There are loads of really good tools there. You get another category that's very sort of operational focused. Let me log in every day to see what my profit is for this particular product, or what my inventory position is today and how that's moving. Those are very operationally focused, fine, and they're really good tools out there. Then there's a lot of good tools that will tell you about competitors, that will tell you about the market, organic rankings, all those sorts of use cases. But in our view, there's no one really looking at customer, right? Like actually your customer behavior. And so, we only use, somebody signs up to Nozzle, they connect the Amazon account to Nozzle. We're only using your data. We're not, scraping or anything like that, right? We're just your data sets is what we use for it. And so, yes, I believe we're very different because we're focused on the customer, which is another totally different way of looking at Amazon. I mean, our view is Amazon is set up to be so what we call product centric. Your whole view of Amazon is in terms of your ASINs or in terms of your SKUs, right? Like what is the profit or the volume or whatever it is in terms of this particular product. But, as I said before, to win on Amazon in the future, it's our firm belief that you're going to have to be building a brand, and the brand is made up of the customers that buy from you. And so our view is to start with the customer, right? And surface a lot of the behavioral data and metrics. And as I say, crucially, what do you do with that data? So what is it? Okay, so someone buys every 2 months or every 3 months from me, or someone buys product A, then buys product B. What are you telling me to do with that information, right? Well, it depends on your goals. Are you looking to grow the business and perhaps sacrifice a bit of profitability? Or are you very, very profitability focused and sacrificing a bit of growth? Because those are two different strategies. And so our tool will, calibrate what, according to your goals, what you should be focused on.
Okay, I think it's very useful, very deep information as well. And because of the nature of your business, everything moves very fast. Especially in your line of business. Where do you think, or where do you want, where are you heading within the next year or 2 years? I mean, it's quite hard because of COVID and everything what's going on to predict anything, but what are your plans like? Where do you want to bring the software, or maybe any features or anything, maybe another line, another company, or anything?
I mean, definitely not another company. I'm absolutely focused on Nozzle's got tremendous potential, right? So
100%,
we're focused, for the time being, we're definitely just focused on Amazon. There's so much to be done on Amazon. The rate of, even just on the API, on the data side, there's new stuff happening every month, right? Like there's an email I get of what they released this month on the API side, and there's always just loads and loads of things. That opens up new use cases.
Every morning news.
Yeah, exactly. And it just opens up new use cases for us, right? It means, oh, wow, now we can go deeper into this area, or we can do that. And so there's just, we're always going to be playing catch up. We're never going to be, satisfied with that. But I guess maybe perhaps medium or long term, a very frequent question, of course, we get is, other marketplaces or D2C Shopify, or, things like that. And we haven't really looked into any of those cases yet, because as I say, we're just so focused on Amazon for the moment. But those could be certainly areas where we would look to expand in the future.
Okay. So, and where can anyone, contact you, or where do Nozzle, what's the website is nozzle.ai, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So it's Nozzle AI, nozzle.ai. But if you want to reach out to me, personally, LinkedIn is probably the best place to do it.
Okay.
I'm very passionate about this subject. Even if it's just a question you have or whatever it is, please do ask it. I'm very happy to answer and engage. And even if it's Amazon related, if it's Nozzle related, or just entrepreneurship focused as well, any of those sorts of things, I'm very happy to start a conversation.
That's great. I can definitely feel the energy. You're very passionate about the subject, and I'm always saying this. If you go into a business, make sure that you're really passionate about it, and that you eat, sleep, and live it all day long. Night long. For some people, some people think you're crazy, but I think that's a good thing. When people say you're crazy, you overdo something. It's a good thing, I believe.
I've always, I've definitely had those characteristics since I was a child, right? Like I would find a hobby, whatever it is, and then just get so into it and just read up as much as I can, and all that sort of stuff about it. So yes, that's definitely been a consistent thread throughout my life. But yeah, absolutely, because it's really difficult, and there are going to be a lot of hurdles. There are going to be a lot of bad days, and so you better make sure you're enjoying what you're doing, right? Definitely.
Great. That was really some great information. We have one last question for you.
Yes.
What would be your message to the world, to anyone out there who's an entrepreneur or who wants to be an entrepreneur? What would be your message?
Yeah, so that's a good one. Probably for me, it would actually be something around, listen to the market, not to the experts.
Experts is the best word here,
So listen to what the market is telling you, not what the experts are telling you, right? And so, you need to understand that ultimately we all know very, very little. And your job is to separate the facts from the guesses, ultimately, right? And so how you go and how quickly you can do that, how cheaply you can do that is really your job when you're just starting out. So, listen to the market and not the experts. And you need to be humble in that process and realizing how little you know. And really, it's a truth-seeking job to figure out, the facts from the guesses.
I think I will quote you on this one. Listen to the market, not to the experts. I really like this phrase. This is really good.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, being a guest at the MarginBusiness Digital Entrepreneur Podcast, and it was a pleasure speaking with you about this subject. Nozzle.ai, next level data, Amazon data company. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.